Good morning.
Leah.
But that's midday, right?
That's in the afternoon, yes.
Afternoon, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so if we could maybe have a look at it and make sure that it all works, that'd be great.
I'm putting that in my to-do list.
Thank you very much. All right, let me just set this up. Abby is here as well. Fantastic. Cool. Ooh, you're printing in the background. This is getting better and better.
The show is on.
Yeah. What are you printing? Is it going to be finished by the end of this?
No. 4 hours.
4 hours.
It's a bottle tags. I will tell you later.
What?
So when you have a cellar, you need to find your bottles in the cellar. So I print some tags you can put on the bottle.
Oh, bottle tag. That's such a Bordeaux issue. Having a cellar with wine bottles that you need to label.
Yes. This is a current topic.
Just read today that King Charles is coming to look at chateaus in Bordeaux.
Who?
King Charles.
Hey?
Do you know King of England?
Ah, yes.
That guy.
Sorry. So yes, yeah, I know. But he doesn't want to come to my home, so.
Well, you never know. Apparently, he selected all the eco-friendly chateaus.
Oh, okay.
Come and have a look. So depends on how eco your house is. He might show up.
Maybe. So I will have my nice tags.
It's all about the look, isn't it? Right, 9:30. Let's make a start. So we're a few people down today because one of the team has a driving lesson and the other one is currently going to hospital. And I just want to point out those two events are unrelated. But good to see you all. We don't actually have a paper today. So it's going to be a discussion round, and the topic that was, how should I put it, offered to me to discuss was special issues. So we currently have in our extended team here, we have 3 special issues open for submission. Let me just share with you. Here we go. Those are the 3 special issues we currently have. So there is one on brain parcellations for brain structure and function. There is one on comparative neuroscience, brain evolution and comms bio. And then we have the language systems in brain structure and function. And I thought we could just have a discussion, chat, whatever you want to talk about special issues, what they are, who does them, how they work, why we need them, and what you want to know about it. So I'm just giving the floor to all of you to fire some questions and we see if we can address them appropriately. So any questions about special issues?
What's a special issue?
Good question, Victor. So a special issue is a dedicated issue of a journal that is dedicated to a specific topic. So in this case, brain parcellations, brain evolution, and language systems. And the idea is that you offer a temporary or a timely update on all the things we know, and you do a 360 evaluation of a topic in one dedicated issue. So it's basically, if you want to compare it like that, it's basically a textbook that is extremely up to date.
You lost the sharing, it's normal?
Well, you saw it and you know where to find it, so I thought I'd bring us back.
Okay, no, perfect. I was wondering. Okay.
Anything else you want? Has anyone published in a special issue yet?
I don't think so. Not me, at least.
Annie, which special issue? What was your experience?
I was just preparing my question and trying to figure out how controversial it is, because I was always wondering what the prestige of special issues is. I know, of course, that comes with which journal it is in, but for it, maybe it was just for me luck, but I somehow had the impression that for me it was easier to get into special issue than the normal journal. Which, as I said, might be totally anecdotal, but from me as a early career researcher, my biggest question would be, where do they rank? Is there any difference? Is it just the timely matter that pushes them out at a certain point, but the peer review process behind this is the same, or is there a bit of a bias or some kind of different thing behind the scenes that we're not aware of?
A very good question. So I wouldn't say there is a bias. All the papers still go out to peer review. As an editor, the advantage is that you usually have a more dedicated pool of reviewers for special issues, just because you can kind of rely on the authors that submit to the special issue as also being reviewers for other papers a bit more than you usually can. So it's usually for an editor easier to find reviewers, but the papers still go out to peer review as any normal paper would. And then in terms of the prestige, yes, the journal still matters, impact factors. We say we don't count it, but it still counts most of the time. But generally speaking, a paper in a special issue tends to be more cited than if the paper is published in a normal issue.
I see. Yeah. That is also true for mine. And just to put it into context, I just realized why it might have been easier for me, because maybe my paper went to somebody who is from the field, because often what happens to me with TMS research is that I have to defend the method rather than the paradigm I used within the method. So then it's often hard for me to push something with, I don't know, TMS into, let's say, human brain mapping or something like that. Whereas if I have then more dedicated reviewers that are already aware of the shortcomings of the technique, they might not discard my paper based on just TMS, which I didn't invent. I'm just trying to use as much as I can. Well, I think that might be, the key to my situation. But yeah, of course, I'm very much aware that there's a big peer review process behind it, but now it makes a bit more sense. Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Anna, you have a question as well.
I have a question, a rather technical question. I hope, by the way, we don't hear the background noises because I'm in a coffee shop here. It's about the impact factor. So how is the impact factor of special issues being determined? Is it related, like, is it the same as the journal itself, or is it like a special impact factor? Is there one at all?
So there is a specific formula how to calculate the impact factor for a journal, which is based on the citations per paper over a certain amount of time. And the way you calculate the impact of a special issue is the same as you would for any other issue. But as I said, we see that special issues tend to have a higher impact factor than normal kind of randomly put together issues.
And anyway, it's still in the same journal, right? So people who are not looking specifically people who are just looking for an article and find it online, and they may not be aware at all that it is in a special issue, right? And they just see that it's in the journal, and yeah, that's it.
Well, usually it says on the paper and also online that this is part of a collection of special papers. Just to link it all up so you can easily find the rest of the topic. But it is, as you say, it's just a normal paper on PubMed that is listed with a DOI that will count towards your personal indices. But yeah, the way the impact is calculated is the same for normal issues and special issues.
I was wondering if no one has a question, or if maybe.
Yeah, I have a question, but go ahead, Victor, if you want to follow up.
Guys are too polite to each other.
No, you. Okay, so a quick question. It's about the practicality about publishing in this kind of special issue, because I assume that you want to have all the articles ready before you publish the special issue, and if there are delays with some article, it may delay the whole thing, right? Quite a bit sometimes, I assume. Won't that be a problem for people who want to publish articles there, or are you only accepting papers that are not novel, but mostly things that are already known and made clearer in this issue? So what I mean is, if someone does not want to be scooped, would it be a good idea to avoid special issues?
So the way special issues come about is that one of the associate editors in a journal suggests the topic, and you actually write a proposal to the journal saying, this is what I have in mind, this is why it's timely, these are the authors I could see submit a paper, and you can specify the scope. So you can say you want review papers or no review papers. You can say that you want only novel science, experimental science. So these are all the things you as the editor can specify before you put the call out. For our special issues, we usually have a mix, because reviews are very nice, especially as an introductory paper to a special issue. So you get an overview of the field or current questions, but you also want new science in there, right? Now, back in the older days, papers being delayed was much more of an issue, because you had to print them. So you had to print a special issue, right? So at some point, all those papers had to go to print, and they came out all at the same time in a nice dedicated book. Whereas nowadays, sorry, someone just rang the doorbell. Had to stop. And nowadays, the papers come out as they come in and are reviewed and ready to go online. So they usually come online when they're ready, and they just denote that it's for a special issue.
That's nice.
Yeah, so you don't have, your paper isn't held back anymore.
Okay, no, that's nice. That's a good way to do it. Technology.
Yeah. So it's a general question. So as you said, Steph, special issues are specific to a topic, and so you try to collect or to review a certain topic. And I wanted to know if, compared to a book, because the process of a book is so you try to collect different people to work on a same topic. So yeah, one of the main point is maybe that there is less review for the book, but is there are there other differences or something that are comparable between a book and a special issue?
Very good question. So a book usually works slightly differently. So I'm also currently a book editor, so I'm in the midst, and I can see the different processes really well at the moment. So for a book, you usually invite authors, whereas for a special issue, you put a call out. So you obviously have some people in mind that you directly approach and say, hey, this would fit with your research nicely. Would you be willing to submit a paper? But it is an open call. So anyone who sees the call can submit a paper if it fits the scope of the special issue. With books, you usually don't know. Like there is no open call. So either the handling editors know you or someone refers you. Is not as easy to chip in a book chapter as it is to get a paper in a special issue. And then you're absolutely right. The review for a book is less stringent than for a special issue. So usually the book chapters get reviewed by the handling editors and the editors-in-chief, or editor, depending on how many people are involved. but it doesn't usually get sent out to a general review. That is if you write a book. So for example, I'm the section editor at the moment, so I invite about 20 people to write book chapters, and then I review it and the editors-in-chief review it. But if you write your own book, for example, you have to write a book proposal, send it to the publisher, and that book proposal gets reviewed and the final product gets reviewed. But a lot more selectively than journal papers.
Okay. And talking about the impact, so the feeling I got being editing a book is that people say, yeah, but it's not very rewarding in terms of book, and maybe special issues will be better in this case.
It depends on how you define reward, right?
Yeah, but in terms of impact factor and how much citation you will get. And...
Yeah, books don't count as much in that sense because they usually don't get listed on PubMed.
Yeah.
But that's also changing. So now a lot of books have the book chapters available on PubMed, but they tend to not be openly available as well, which also further reduces their impact. If you write your own book, it's not going to be completely online in PubMed as a book. But I still find it quite rewarding knowing that one day there's going to be a book on my shelf that has my name. But it also means that books are slightly less timely because it takes much longer to put together an entire book than collect papers from experts in the field and put it together.
Yeah.
So usually a book, from what I've seen, you aim for a year and it takes about 5 years.
It's a pain.
Also because it's less rewarded in the system of academia, right? So if you struggle for time, the first thing that you push back usually is writing your book, because papers, grants, they all get priority, and then the book just
get delayed. Yeah,
get delayed. That's where special issues are a lot more effective because the distribution of labor is a bit more equal, and you're not the bottleneck that has to get it all done. So special issues, again, I've seen them range from 6 months to 5 years. It's much faster now that the individual papers get published as they are ready online. But back in the days when you had to wait for all the papers to be ready to be published as a mini book, obviously if you have 1 or 2 people who are late, it delayed the entire special issue.
Okay. Jude?
I don't know who was first, Annie or Lily.
Okay, pointing somewhere. I think that's me. Mine was a bit related to the previous one because I have gotten some invitations over the years. So I was wondering how much that works, because of course, as an editor, you might have already the perfect people in mind that you would, because you know of them contributing to this topic. For me, often I was then, the deadline for the special issue didn't match at all with the project plan where that would fit. So that's then a shame. But does it work well to invite people, or is a lot of the stuff that ends up in the special issue also more randomly because there's an open call?
It's a bit of a mix. I would say about 90% of the people you approach to submit a paper agree to submit the paper. But that doesn't actually mean that in the end they will submit a paper. So you do have a mixed bag, but I don't think it's a problem if people submit randomly, so to say, as long as it is timely and fitting the call. And I think it's also good because then it avoids the bias of inviting people that are already known in the field and gives a platform to people who are up and coming and can contribute novel ideas.
Yeah, I was more thinking from your point of view, how much work it is to actually find people, or if it's also its own well-running machine that in the end, yeah, you will end up with enough high quality papers.
I mean,
so it sorts itself out in a way.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, still a lot of work that goes into it. Curating the list of people, approaching people,
running after them, I guess.
Running after them, explaining what the special issue is about, answering questions as they start writing the paper, what fits, what doesn't fit, or where to tweak it, finding reviewers. So it is a lot of work. But then it's also amazing to have this very timely update on a field.
And very tailored to your idea, right?
Correct. I mean, correct. And it's also a nice way to get in touch with people that you may not have been in touch with before, and just reach out and say, hey, we're doing this. Are you interested? It's a form of collaboration without like your names on the paper, but like, yeah. It's nice to bring people together and produce something together. That's what I love about special issue. Lilith.
Yeah. Hi, I have a question. So, like, as an editor, do you have a specific amount of special issues that you are allowed to open in 1 year? Is there a limitation, like you have to do at least one special issue? And the second question is like, is it all the journals do special issues? And another thing, how many special issues you can open simultaneously, and what will happen if people will just not simply apply for the special issue? How many papers should be accepted to be published in a special issue?
Okay. That was a lot of questions from Monday morning. So how many special issues? There is no quota you have to hit. So it's not like you're obliged to run special issues. It's a voluntary thing that people do just to bring everyone together and have an overview of the field at this point in time. So there is no mandate that you have to have so and so many special issues. It's, again, voluntary extra work that people do. How many you can do in a year? In theory, there is no limit, but I can tell you the limit is your time, because it does take quite some time to come up with the idea, write the proposal, approach people, and the topic has to be specific enough to warrant a special issue, but also broad enough so you actually get enough papers in the end and can combine different people in a special issue. So there's a lot of thinking and background work that has to go into a special issue. So yeah, I think 1 to 3 months a year is what you can realistically handle, depending on other commitments that you have. Now, in terms of how many papers does it take? It very much depends, right? So the science special issue that came out end of last year was only a handful of papers in a special issue. But there's also special issues that had so many good submissions that it turned into a 2-volume publication. So it depends on the journal and the topic, I would say. There's no fixed numbers of you have to have 20 papers to be a special issue.
So it never happened like there is only one paper that is a good one and deserves to be published, and then it is a special issue with a special one paper?
Not to my knowledge. Okay. But as I said, because you usually theorize a lot before you propose the special issue, you also have key players in mind that you would want to see a submission from. And usually there is 2 people editing a special issue. So it's a big job. So it's usually 2 handling editors. So you would assume that between the 2, you get a variety of papers in. Also, the topic is usually timely and exciting, so people want to contribute. So yeah. Annie.
I didn't even realize how many questions I had about special issues until this morning. The last one, I think, for me is the more practical one, because inevitably you might be involved somehow in one of the, as the editor of a special issue, you might be involved in one of the papers that fit it. Is there a conflict that you're somewhere in the author list? I'm assuming you wouldn't be first author in a paper in your special issue, but you might supervise people, etc. So that is, I guess, inevitable and not frowned upon at all.
It depends on how many papers you co-author. If it's a one-person show and you basically just publish all your work in one special issue, you might be better off writing a book in that case, and that would be frowned upon. But obviously, you do a special issue within your area of expertise, and you also want your team to publish, the juniors in your team in particular. So you're bound to end up on 1 or 2 papers usually, but you shouldn't be on every single paper in the special issue. There was a, I hope I'm not calling wrong names now, but I think Dorothy Bishop at some point did a review on her blog on editors of journals and how often they publish in their own journal. And there was a couple of people who clearly published more being the editor than you probably should. But also, to be fair, when you're the editor, you help the journal grow, right? So you're intimately linked to the journal, and you know specifically what kind of topics fit which journal, which makes it a lot easier to target journals that you are involved with. But it shouldn't be the case that you just publish your own papers to have a special issue. Another thing that's exciting though about a special issue is that you have to write an editorial, which is a preface to all the papers in a special issue, where you summarize the idea of why that special issue is needed, where the idea came from, and how all the papers that you now collected actually fit together. And you basically sum up the contribution to show where this is now taking us, which is also quite exciting. Any other questions? No? Great. Well, that was an interesting session today. I'm glad you had so many questions about special issues. Clearly, it was a good suggestion to talk about it. Now you know which special issues are currently open for submission, so do go out there and submit your reviews and experimental science. Thanks for all your questions. Next week we have Amber present, so do join us for that one. And until then, I wish you an exciting week in science. Bye.